You plan for it, save for it, think ahead to it. But how do you know when it's finally time to pull the cord on retirement? Jim Yee is a financial educator, founder of retirehappy.ca. He's here to shed some light on one of life's biggest decisions.
Thanks for having me.
Jim, great to see you again. Okay, well, it's the big question for so many. How do you know it's time to retire?
Yeah, well, I think the obvious answer is when you have enough money, right? I mean, you hear that all the time. How much is enough? How much should I have? But I think because of that, obviously you need a certain amount of money in order to retire. But I think because of that, we have gotten too focused on the money side of things. And although, yes, you need a certain amount of money in order to retire, and you can debate on how much is enough, I think one of the things we lose sight of is how important it is to think about lifestyle. 25 years of experience, I've seen so many people who either have good pensions or have actually saved enough money only to find that they're actually not mentally ready, or they're just not in a position where their headspace is quite there. So I think incorporating lifestyle, we've seen people who retire with enough money but then they're bored out of their tree, or they're not really happy in retirement. And why is that? Because successful retirement's about more than just the money issues.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, it's not just the when, it's the if they actually want to retire.
Absolutely. So sometimes we confuse financial freedom with this issue of retirement. And there's a lot of people these days where they have done all their preparations and they're ready for retirement. They've got RSPs and have figured out their CPP and things like that. But really, they enjoy their work, or they like the people or they need to get out of the house. And so there's a whole bunch of reasons outside of RSPs and taxes and pensions of why maybe you don't want to retire. And that's really changing this whole face of what retirement used to mean, stop working. And a lot of people aren't doing the traditional or conventional type of retirement anymore.
What are some of the big curveballs? We know the economy right now is not doing that great.
Yeah.
So how many curveballs are involved when you try to figure out this equation of when to retire?
Great question. Well, obviously the economy is one, right? So right now, some people are being forced into retirement. So maybe they weren't quite there, and now because of cutbacks and layoffs and things like that, obviously that plays a big role in changing your retirement plans and things you can't control. The stock market is another one, right? We've seen so many, how many people in 2008 were planning to retire, and then the stock market drops and their portfolio drops, and they say, oh, maybe I can't retire. And probably the biggest one is health, right? Health is a big factor in retirement. You want to retire when you're healthy and you can do things and enjoy things. But for some people, health throws an unexpected curveball at you and changes your whole retirement plan. So probably the big common ones anyways.
You mentioned freedom a second ago, and that brought some branding back to mind. Freedom 55. For those who are maybe looking a little bit longer down the road, they have that time maybe to plan. You want to retire that early at 55. How much of your income do you actually need to set aside for something that early?
Yeah, Freedom 55 was an advertising campaign, right, which changed the way we think. We all want to retire early, but it's just kind of math. And the general rule of thumb that I would say is, you've all heard of save 10%. I think that's ingrained in the Wealthy Barber and all kinds of personal finance books. But if you want to retire early, I'll tell you that 10% probably isn't enough.
Not enough?
No,
right?
Probably in the neighborhood of 20 to 25%. Keeping in mind that that's a general rule of thumb, but it's important for people to crunch their numbers. If you really want to retire at 55, I hear young people saying, I want to retire at 50 now. If the generation before me could do it at 55, I want to do it at 50. But they have no clue what that really means. But yeah, in excess of 20% is probably what you need to save.
Is there really such a thing as full bore retirement in this day and age? Because it seems so many are actually going back and doing something in some capacity, whether it's part-time, it's consulting, it's whatever. It's people still want to work.
It's definitely changed a lot, for sure. Right? The old definition of retirement was to stop working, to stop work. And that is not necessarily the current definition of retirement anymore. So we're seeing more and more people going back to work, or plan to work, or want to work. We've also seen in the last 10 years a lot of opportunities where people weren't planning to work, but the economy was so hot, we needed workers, people were pulled into the workforce. So one of the changing, the terminology's changed, so we hear about things like phased retirement or transitional retirement as the new form of retirement, as opposed to sort of the cold turkey, I'm done, that's it, no more, And so yeah, you're seeing huge changes and trends in this idea of working in retirement.
I want to squeeze in this last question. At a certain point, though, you do have to start drawing on your RSPs. So how does that factor into the whole equation of determining when?
Yeah. You know what's interesting is I find that people are hesitant to take money out of RSPs. And I always say that when it comes to money, psychology is more important than logic. And so people tend not to take money out of their RSPs because they're afraid it's going to draw down too fast, or they hate paying the taxes. And my advice is always, as soon as you retire, start looking at an RSP withdrawal strategy. Don't wait till 71. 71, the rule is that's when you have to sort of take it out. But I see too many people waiting to 71 only to regret and wish they would have taken it out sooner. Don't take it out while you're working, but certainly once you retire, it's an opportunity for you to develop what I call an RRSP withdrawal strategy. So very important to take that into account.
Jim, always great to speak with you.
Hey, my pleasure.
Appreciate
Thanks.
your perspective. Jimmy, financial educator and founder of RetireHappy.ca.